Welcome to our pre-meditation talk. And we are going to be discussing the topic of spiritual starvation, spiritual fulfillment as an individual and as a society. Both people and individuals can be fulfilled. And the two reflect back and forth with each other. So a society is as fulfilled as its people are, and the people are as fulfilled as the society is. And actually, in the good old days of kings and queens, you could tell the health of the society by the health of the king or queen. And I don't mean just their physical health, but how happy a person are they? And if the society wasn't doing well, if there were droughts and famines and things like that, and if the king didn't look like he cared, they would get rid of him. The king is dead, off with his head, and then long live the king, long live the next one, and hope you understand what your job is now. And so the this notion of uh, the fulfillment of a society being tied to the fulfillment of its leaders, that the fulfillment of a person being tied to the fulfillment of a society is something that we should be paying attention to nowadays, because we see that our society, in fact, our entire earth, is at a nexus point, is at a turmoil point, and that we need to be thinking about not, I think we're missing the point when we're talking about the number of carbon particulates per billion in the atmosphere. That's not the point. The point is, why are we making the atmosphere unhappy? Why are we making our oceans unhappy? Why are we producing so much garbage and then trying to find places to put it? What is what does life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness even mean? How are you pursuing happiness? What are you doing? Um, um, an image came to me. I watch a variety of movies, and some of them are ones I would not recommend to you. And one of the ones I would not recommend to you is Sin City. Um, Very well done movie, really, really, really violent. And one of the violent characters had just been beaten to a pulp, put through everything, was covered with cuts and bruises and bandages. And somebody says, "Well, how are you doing?" He says, "I'm having a ball." And he's having the ball because he's got this bottle of pills that never specifies what the pills are. And whenever he stops having a ball, he just swallows a whole bunch of those pills and he's back to having a ball again. And so that in our society takes the place of happiness. It all just depends on what pills you can ingest, what you objects you can smoke, what kind of how you can um, medicate yourself. That is not what we're supposed to be about on this planet. There, we don't talk about that's not what we're supposed to be on this planet, because there are too many people making money from those pills. And I don't mean making a little bit of money, I'm making billions and billions on this pill. So we don't want you to wake up. We don't want you to understand what it is that you are supposed to be doing. So a lot of times, people talk about I'm a spiritual person or I'm on a spiritual path. And what they mean by that is um, I read some books, I go to the shop and buy some crystals, and I go to yoga. I am I have this um, lifestyle, a largely materialist lifestyle. I buy all this stuff, and that makes me spiritual. So I want to chat with you today. Put my butterfly over here. I want to talk to you today about uh, what does spiritual even mean? Um, how do we live as spiritual people? Um, what is our um, what is the what's the meaning of our um, not existence? Well, maybe the meaning of our existence that might fit. Um, and let's look at a couple of folks who may need no introduction. Um, the Dalai Lama said, a revolution is called for, certainly. He's talking about our times today, but not a political, an economic, or even a technical revolution. We have had enough experience of these during the past century to know that a purely external approach will not suffice. What I propose is a spiritual revolution. But what is spirituality? Spirituality I take to be concerned with those qualities of the human spirit, such as love and compassion, patience, tolerance, forgiveness, contentment, a sense of responsibility, a sense of harmony, which bring happiness to both self and others. The spiritual practice involves, on the one hand, acting out of concern for others' well-being. On the other, it entails transforming ourselves so that we become more readily disposed to do so. To speak of spiritual practice in any terms other than these is meaningless. Okay, so he's saying that spiritual practice on this hand is acting out of concern for others. And then that's out here. And then on the other hand, in your court, it's making yourself more readily disposed to do this, to help others. So these two things make up your spiritual practice. My call for a spiritual revolution is thus not a call for a religious revolution, nor is it a reference to a way of life that is somehow otherworldly. Rather, it is a call for a radical reorientation away from our habitual preoccupation with self. That's my emphasis, because we are completely oriented toward ourselves. What we're doing with the catalyst meditation is very gently, I hope it's gently, I hope it's not too abrupt for you, but very gently moving ourselves away from a preoccupation with our individual selves, moving us away from a preoccupation with ourselves as human beings, and moving ourselves into the center as a part of, as an integral part of life. Now, that's pretty radical. I got another person lined up here to talk to us about what we should be doing. Um, I love this image of Jesus of Nazareth. Every other image, he is like very somber and, you know, looks like he needs an enema, or, you know, I am I don't know if I would follow that guy. Also doesn't look in the slightest bit Palestinian. Um, but he says, so in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. And that what he means by sums up the law and the prophets is that's it. There isn't anything else. Okay. Um, you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He also said, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Okay. So we've known this stuff for a long, long time. We know it, we read it, we recite it, we talk about it on Sundays, and then we forget about it because we practice something radically different from that. And that is me first and screw you. Um, Sometimes when we try to be enlightened, we just say the me first part. We don't put the screw you part in there. That shows up from our actions, where we put ourselves above all other living beings. We put ourselves over other human beings and go on with a way of looking at the world that is not healthy. So if these things constitute what a spiritual life means, then why aren't we doing it? What is the model? Why are we following a different model? So something I talk about I just happen to have my book deck here in some order. So I've got a copy of Creating a World That Works for All. And in Creating a World That Works for All, I think in chapter 3, I talk about a concept that I call the hunger for the sacred. That there is a hunger inside of each one of us. And I have to be careful here. I cracked some ribs this weekend. Had nothing else to do. Was kind of sitting kind of bored. I just cracked some ribs, and I have to watch how many jokes I tell because I'm not supposed to be laughing that hard now. But I'm all taped up and doing well. Um, and so um, in in creating a world that works for all, this concept of the hunger for the sacred, there's something that lies inside of each one of us, and it is a hunger. And for those of us who have tried to fill that hunger with food, we wind up weighing 500 pounds and it doesn't, it's still empty. We try to fill it up with sports. We're exercising all the time and it's still empty. We try to fill it up with sex. We try to fill it up with money. We try to fill it up with all sorts of things, and the hunger is still there. And that's because the hunger is for something that is transcendent. It does not exist on this planet. It's a hunger for the sacred. Uh, and now there are people who try to fill the hunger for the sacred with a hunger for extraterrestrial knowledge. So whether that's they're UFO chasers or whether they are trance channelers, whatever, they still want something external to fill that, even if the external is transcendent, if that makes any sense to you. If it doesn't make sense to you, we'll talk about it in the informal discussion part. But our hunger for the sacred um, is something that is actually good. It's something that actually that we can and should want. It's the quest for the transcendent. And everything the Dalai Lama talked about, everything that Jesus of Nazareth talked about, everything that all of our wisdom teachers talk about are actually fingers pointing toward that thing which can't be pointed to, a quest for the transcendent. But what happens when you you know there's something here and there's no one in your society who tells you how to fill it? Okay. um so if when you were born, you open your mouth, start crying, and somebody stuck a breast or a bottle in your mouth, and it's a pretty good deal. And next time you kind of get uncomfortable, you open your mouth again and somebody sticks a breast or a bottle in it, and it happens again. Now, that satisfies your hunger for food, but it doesn't satisfy your hunger for all of the other things that you should be hungry for, both in the society and in the transcendent. So the hunger for the sacred is a hunger for something else, something transcendent, and us not knowing how to get it. So not knowing how to be fed leaves you in a constant fear that you will not have enough, that you will not be enough, that something bad's about to happen to you, etc. This gets you into what Václav Havel called the consensual lie, the lie that we all consent to. And that lie is, everything's fine. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm great. How are you? Well, no, you're not great. There's something missing inside. We don't go through our lives saying, when somebody says, how are you doing today? Something's missing inside. And if you do say that, they say, oh, well, you need some mental health. You need some pills. You need to talk to a counselor. Because the counselor has all your answers, and you should just talk to him or her, and then you'll have all the answers and you'll be fine like the rest of us. That is the consensual lie. So the hunger for the sacred, coupled with hunger for the sacred, is fine. It's led me around the world. It's led me to amazing experiences. We could talk for hours and hours and hours about the experiences of the search for the sacred, my search for the sacred. And all the time I'm walking through, when I'm at the Great Pyramid, or I'm at Göbekli Tepe, or I'm at lots and lots of sites in England and in India and everywhere else. I know it's not in that site. When I show up, I know the sacred is not there. That's an indicator of it. That's an indicator of it. And I'm looking at that sacred somewhere around here. So hunger for the sacred, not knowing how to be fed, leads to what I'm calling spiritual starvation. it's a weird kind of starvation because you don't look emaciated like someone experiencing food starvation. You don't um, there's no way to look at a person and tell whether or not that person is um, fed or whether that person is not. Um, so hunger for the sacred has some particular symptoms to it. And I talk about this some in the book, but right here, the hunger for the symptoms for the spirit for spiritual starvation, um, anger and violence. And when you see people who are perpetually angry and they're not particularly articulate about what they're angry about, you can't tell what they're angry about. They're just angry. Escapist behavior. I want to be away from this. I want this thing to cease. But if I can't articulate what this thing is, yeah, what do I do? Well, I'm just angry at everyone in the world perpetually. Denial and numbing. I don't see it. I don't want to interact with it. It's not real. That's not real. Um, I'm going to turn up the volume on my 500 channel television so that I will not have the experience of the starvation that's happening, not on that screen. It is on the screen, but not on that screen, but the starvation happening in my heart. And control and manipulation. If I am experiencing this hunger, I'm going to stop experiencing it. I'm going to control my reality. I'm going to um, surround myself with security and guns. I'm going to do all the things that I can do to keep from being, to keep from feeling, to keep from knowing that there's something, that there's a path and I'm not on it. So the question is whether I'm going to do this last part. And the answer is, since I just said that, I guess I'm going to do it. And this, I'm just going to read real quickly to you here. So a spiritually starved person, they get angry and they hate easily. They're destructive to themselves, they're destructive to others, and destructive to the society. They act like they are powerless. They have low self-esteem and they have a low esteem for all others. And these two things are related. They are armored, stiff, and unbending. They have a low life force. They don't seem to have a lot of life going through them. Unbalanced and uncentered. They act like they're empty, like they're a shell. And what you see on the outside is all there is to be seen. Profoundly unhappy, even when they're smiling, you can tell the smile doesn't go any further than their mouths. They have a limited experience of life, and they're judgmental and critical of themselves, of others, and of society. If that's what the spiritually starved person looks like, and they're afraid all the time. What does a spiritually fulfilled person look like? They radiate love and compassion. They're creative, flexible, and adaptable. They radiate power. They radiate divine energy. They're grounded and centered. They act like they are satisfied and fulfilled. They are profoundly happy, even if they're not smiling and grinning all the time. They radiate a happiness and a fulfillment to others. They're not ruled by their needs and desires. They see that life is abundant and has been abundant with them. They have a deep experience of an appreciation for life. They're empowered and they live beyond their fears. Okay, folks, that's it uh, for talking about um, spiritual starvation, spiritual fulfillment. I hope you can take all of that and take it over into our societal realm. We here on this call are creating the 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 framework for the spiritual society, for a spiritually fulfilled society. And each one of us, as the butterfly is taking shape, we're shaping it. And we're shaping it. Oh, and here comes the onslaught. And therefore, I'm gonna wrap up that note here on wrap all on that note. We've got a bunch of people trying to get in for the meditation.